Okay, looks like I'm live. Let's see. Let me know if you're joining me. Let me know if you're here. I'm just going to find my live stream in the group and pin it to the top so people can find it. Okay, oops, I've got to turn off my sound. All right, good. So let me know if you can hear me. And I just want to see if I can see the comments. Here we go. Okay, good. So it looks like people are hopping on, people are finding me. So I wanted to have a conversation about what it means to be a human expression of the divine and what it means to actually be human and sovereign at the same time. And I want to also talk about the law of attraction and some some flaws that I see in a lot of the law of attraction teachings. Now, I do believe that the law of attraction is definitely a piece of the puzzle, but it's not everything. And I want to talk about that a little bit. Um, and so I'd love to have your, I want this to be a conversation. I'd love to have your input, your thoughts on all of this. So I'm gonna watch the comments. Oops, my hair is stuck to my lip. I watch the comments. Mostly, I might be just in my Facebook group because I'm streaming in three places, so it's a little bit hard to watch all of them at once. But I made a post in my group a couple of days ago about an experience that I had recently when I was doing a live masterclass. Now, a few things have happened recently that have kind of made me think about this topic a lot. Um, and it's interesting. Facebook, social media is so interesting. I feel like when I post things on my personal page, it's somehow seems to be this open invitation for everybody to tell me their thoughts and opinions on whatever it is that I'm talking about. But that's social media. That's just an interesting dynamic that we have in the world now. But on my, so I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to start with the masterclass that I was doing. This happened a couple of weeks ago. I was teaching a masterclass and talking a little bit about my Sacred Soul Alignment certification that's coming up here starting next week. And somebody that I didn't know commented, she said, "No disrespect." And sometimes you know when somebody starts with that in a comment that what they're going to say next may be disrespectful. Um, she said, "No disrespect, but," so I was talking about, let me backtrack a little bit. I was talking about the emergency surgery that I had on March 19th. So I had a routine elective surgery on my eyes on March 18th. And then on March 19th, I started hemorrhaging, and I think most of you guys by now, unless you're finding me brand new, could know a little bit about this story. But I started hemorrhaging. I was bleeding externally and I was hemorrhaging internally. My face and neck swelled up like a basketball. Like you could barely see the definition of my lips or my nose. And it happened very rapidly. And so I ended up calling 911 and I had to have a second. So the first surgery was just simple. It was in office, local anesthesia. I ended up having to go into the hospital and have like a real surgery that was way, way more invasive than the original procedure. And anyway, it was a life-threatening situation. I almost died. I can feel how close I was to that. If I had, it happened at like 11 o'clock at night, and if I hadn't called 911, I fully believe that I wouldn't be here. If I had just gone to bed and trusted what my doctor was telling me, just to lay down and that I would be fine, I don't think I would be here right now. So I'm still recovering from all of that. That happened 2 months ago today. Um, and anyway, I was talking a little bit about that on this masterclass because it was my first entry back into working again. I was off for an entire month. I wasn't present, and a lot of people knew that something had happened. So I was just sharing that story a little bit. This person that didn't know me, that I don't know, commented, "No disrespect, but if you're a healer, why can't you heal yourself? How could this happen?" And I didn't actually see the comment live. Otherwise, I would have addressed it in the moment. That would have been a really great opportunity to address something like that. But I didn't see it until afterwards. So I've just been kind of sitting with that um, and having a lot of thoughts about that. And then two other things that happened recently. I posted a few weeks ago, I posted a meme or I shared a meme type post on Facebook. It was somebody else's post, and I think it was like an Instagram post or something, where somebody was talking about how um, people tend to tell those that are single, that are looking for a relationship, to just love themselves more, and then they'll attract the relationship. And the meme said how there's many people that are in relationships that don't love themselves, and there's many people that love themselves that are single. And I shared that because that's something I hear a lot, and I'm, uh, in that category of being single and desiring to have a partnership. And I hear that a lot from people. So I shared this, and there was a lot of argument on that post back and forth, not with me, but different people. And I got so many comments on that post. If you just surrender, if you just, practice self-love, that person is going to show up for you right away. And I really that type of attitude and those type of comments, first of all, are not helpful for someone who is, and I wasn't in pain about this. I shared the meme because I thought it was interesting because it's something I hear a lot. And but if somebody is, going through a hard time and what they want, what they desire is not happening, and they're doing all the work and they're doing all the things, and then they hear something like, um, if you just surrender, which is true, we do need to surrender, but that's not helpful. Those are not helpful comments to people when they're going through something painful. And then the third thing that I wanted to share was that last week, um, I I had the worst I've never really had back pain before, but I had really, really bad lower back pain. And I spent all week doing healing work on myself, um, taking the anti-inflammatory supplements and all the things, the Healy device, all the things that are part of my life that I do on a regular basis, and my back pain was still not going away. So I asked on Facebook if anybody had experience with massage or chiropractic work because I wasn't sure which route to go and I didn't want to do something that was going to injure my back further. There was a lot of argument on that post too, not by me, but by people back and forth. I ended up deleting it. But there were so many comments from people, mostly people that I don't know, telling me what they were seeing in my energy field. That I had, this belief and that program and this and that, and I need to do a 2-day silent retreat. And somebody said I need to find a love partner to heal my sacral chakra. Like all of this stuff, which was not what I was asking for. I was asking for experience about chiropractic or massage. And also, I have very, very strong protection around my energy field. I do not allow people to tap into my energy without my permission. So if somebody is thinks that they're tapping into my energy, that they're not reading the truth of me. And this is actually something that I could do a whole, and I probably should do a whole live stream about, um, integrity in doing energy work and healing work, and integrity in tapping into somebody's energy. It's completely out of integrity to tap into somebody's energy field without their permission. And most of the time, we're not going to be getting accurate information if we're doing that. That's something that I teach a lot about in Sacred Soul Alignment, but that's not what this live stream is about. But I couldn't talk about that without mentioning it. So basically, there was a lot of judgment coming towards me because my back was hurting, and people were deciding for me that I had all this programming that isn't accurate. Now there was things to clean up, certainly. I believe there's always an emotional root to a physical reaction. And there certainly was a lot of healing work that this gave me an opportunity to do, but I wasn't asking for that. I'm very attuned to my own self and do my own healing work every single day. And what it ultimately ended up being the key, just for any of you who might have back pain, this might be something to explore. What ultimately ended up being the key to shifting me completely out of the pain that I was in was clearing bacterias. And I could feel that there was something settling into my back. So I did some work on myself with bacterias, and then my best friend Kimberly Carlson came in with energetic allergy healing and identified the specific bacterias, and this could also be a whole entire other live stream, but she identified the specific bacterias that I needed to clear and cleared them, and by the next few hours later, I was completely pain-free. So I didn't need to go to the massage or the chiropractor. I needed to have bacteria cleared, which is an interesting thing. And of course, nobody on my post, accurately tapped into that. There were several people who reached out to me and asked me for my permission to tap into me and do some healing work for me. And that I was very appreciative of. But when we have to be careful when we think that we're hearing something for somebody else and they haven't given us permission. They're not asking that question of us. We have to be really careful and make sure that we're in integrity with what we're saying to people. If it's not being asked directly, if somebody's not specifically asking for healing and giving us permission, then it's out of integrity to directly send them healing. I feel very strongly about that. That's a side topic, though. I want to get back on track here to what I really wanted to talk about. So these three topics have really made me think about, what happens in spiritual communities. And I was a little bit triggered, a little bit triggered. I would say that I was the most triggered on the back post because there was just so many comments. It just got a little bit ridiculous. I was a little bit triggered, but for the most part, I was able to just let it go because, I've done so much work that those trigger points just aren't in my energy field anymore. I've let go of the trauma that would have been triggered for the most part around those things. But it's a really important topic to talk about. So I'd love to hear from you guys what your thoughts are about this sort of law of attraction teaching that says all you have to do is match your vibration to what you desire and it will instantly show up. Now, there is truth to that. I have experienced that. I have definitely experienced matching my vibration to wealth and abundance, matching my vibration to vibrant health, matching my vibration to a romantic partner, and that shows up for me. But there's so many other factors. First of all, we cannot match our vibration to a specific thing that we desire if we have trauma around that. We have to clear that trauma first, and that gets bypassed. So, this is what people refer to as spiritual bypassing. If you're just trying to feel good all the time and be in love and light and flowers and unicorns and sunshine 24/7, and you're not addressing the trauma that you've experienced in this human experience that we're in, you're not going to be able to hold that vibration. You might be able to hold it for a few minutes, and what you desire might come in, but it's going to be temporary if you haven't cleaned up that trauma. So it's so vitally important to clear trauma. I cannot really stress that enough. And this is something that has frustrated me about law of attraction teachings since I discovered them. And the law of attraction teachings were really my gateway into spirituality. So I'm thankful for that. Esther Hicks, Esther and Jerry Hicks, a lot of those teachings were something that I discovered early on, really resonated with a lot of what they said, had some incredible manifestations in my life. But then, life would go on, and the same issues would keep coming up over and over again. So until I really did the healing work and faced my trauma and faced my shadow and did the shadow work and really went deep, um, the changes that I was seeing with this law of attraction, um, um, I don't know what to call it, thinking, I guess, for lack of a better word, it was the changes were all temporary. So if we want to have lasting changes, we need to really embrace all of ourselves and not try to deny um, when we get sick or when something difficult happens. We have a challenge. We have something devastating might happen in our life. Something might slip away that's really important to us. We might lose a relationship that's important to us. We might lose a job. And I believe all of those things are happening for many, many various different reasons. We're being guided and led into something higher and better for us, but we need to process that grief that along the way. We can't just deny it and sweep it under a rug, because otherwise it's just going to keep coming up. So I'm being reminded right now of something that I was told by a grief counselor when my dad passed away when I was 17. That was the first difficult thing that ever really happened to me in my life, and it was very devastating, very, very, very devastating to me and my whole family. He was 40 years old in the prime health and prime of life. And he was in an accident, and that's a whole other story. I'm not going to go into that right now, but the grief counselor that I went to after that time, she told me that that grief is something that really needs to be experienced, and it needs to be cleansed out. And if we allow that scab to form over that pain, um, and the pain isn't healed, then it's going to get infected, and it's going to be even more painful when it eventually comes out. Um, and I'm also being shown right now. I don't know why, but this is an example of how important it is to clean out our stuff, our grief, our trauma. So many years ago, before I ever had kids, my husband was in an accident at work, and his arm was trapped in a conveyor belt, and basically it was crushed, and the way that his arm reacted was basically his skin like popped, and he had a huge hole in his arm that was like 2 or 3 inches deep into the flesh. No bones were broken, um, but they couldn't just stitch it up because the wound was so deep. So some of our trauma is so deep, we can't just, you know, do 5 minutes of healing work and then try to stay in a high vibration. So what ended up happening with him is for 6 weeks, he had to have a nurse come and literally pack that wound every few days, pack that wound with gauze and whatever and antibiotics so that the wound could heal from the inside out. So they couldn't allow it to scab over because then that wound would have become infected and it would have created a huge problem. He could have lost his entire arm. So I didn't plan what I was going to say at all. I just got connected in with my divine aspect and knew that it would come channeling through. So this is a really good analogy of, how important it is to do our work and to allow that healing to come from the inside out. Um, 6 weeks later, he was fine. He barely had a scar. He didn't lose his arm, but that was literally on the table that he could lose his arm if they didn't treat this properly. So that's a good analogy of how important it is to do our work. But back to the law of attraction teachings. I keep getting going down different rabbit holes here. Um, I see a lot in spiritual communities of shaming and judging and blaming people when they're going through something difficult. Now, I believe that any challenge that we come up against is an opportunity for healing and growth. Um, and when somebody says something to someone like what people were saying on the post that I put the meme that I posted about the love relationships and loving yourself, I had many people saying things like, I just surrendered and my divine partner, my twin flame, or whatever, just shut up immediately as soon as I surrendered. And yes, surrendering is hard, but it's interesting. Now, here's another rabbit hole I might go down. It's interesting the advice or what people say about love relationships. Um, it's almost like it's treated differently from any other thing that we're co-creating in our life. I've heard a lot from people, just let it go, just be happy without it, just surrender to being single, and all of that is true. Yes, all of that is true, but we wouldn't tell somebody who is working on growing their business, oh, just don't think about it, just surrender to being broke and poor, and the money's just going to show up for you magically. We need to do our work. We can't just be all you know glossing everything over. That is spiritual bypassing. If somebody's sick, yes, that's an opportunity to look at what created this, but it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong if you're having challenges, if you are struggling in one or more areas of your life, if you are ill, if you're experiencing an illness, if you're experiencing financial difficulties, if you are, if you've lost a relationship, or if you're wanting that partner and they're not showing up for you, that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. We came into this life, into this human experience, to have all range of experiences. So when I was thinking about this last night, the analogy came in, and this is not an exact analogy, but I think it will kind of um, bring home what the point I want to make here. I was tuning into this, and I was thinking, what's a good analogy for our choosing to be the human expression of the divine? And I thought of Disneyland for some reason. So I loved going to Disneyland when I was a kid. It was my favorite thing to do, and I've taken my own kids there many times. And when we go to Disneyland, we don't just want to ride the carousel, right? In fact, when I was a kid, this is going to date me a little bit, but when I was a kid, we would get these booklets of tickets, and it would be like you would have a certain number of A tickets, a certain number of B, C, D, E. I think it went up to E. And the rides were rated for whatever that letter was. And let's just say the A rides were like Space Mountain and Thunder Mountain, um, and all the roller coaster rides, and the E rides, I don't remember which way it went, but let's say the E rides were the carousel. Well, when I was a kid, those A tickets would be the first ones that were gone. I wanted to have those scary, thrilling experiences. And what was left over every year were the carousel tickets, and that would be the last thing that we would always do when at the end of the day, because those were the tickets that were left over. We when I was a kid, I think I was in third grade when Space Mountain opened, and that would from that point on, we went at least once a year to Disneyland. From that point on, Space Mountain was the first thing that we would um, the first ride that we would go on. We wanted to dive in as a family. We wanted to dive in and have those, up and down experiences. That's what we have come here as humans to do, not just to ride around and round and round on a carousel and, have life just be smooth and with music playing in the background. We came here to have all range of experiences. And the range of experiences is what is creating growth for us, what is creating expansion for us. And the paradigm that we live in, I believe that this is changing, but the paradigm that we have all been living in is that growth and expansion and depth of character comes most of the time through a challenging or painful experience. If you meet somebody, that's an adult in life and they've never had a challenging experience, a lot of times they're not going to have the depth of character that you're going to see in somebody who's been through a lot of things that they've had to overcome. So challenges provide growth for us. And so that's one of the main things that main points that I wanted to make here is don't beat yourself up. Don't blame yourself if you're having a challenge in your life. Ask yourself, ask your higher guidance system, your higher self, your divine aspect through your own source connection. What is the lesson here? um, what is the gift here in this experience? Because it's been my experience that there is a gift in every challenge if we are open to receiving it. And sometimes we're not. I went through many years in my life that I was not open to receiving the gift in the challenges that I was experiencing, and I kept experiencing them over and over and over and over again in more and more painful ways. I wasn't listening. And that's even happened to me with this surgery experience. I was being guided to slow down, to stop working so much and so hard for a long time. And it started with 2 years ago, I cut my finger. Almost cut the tip of my finger off. And I had to have, I think it was 23 stitches in the tip of my finger. But I didn't let that slow me down. And then the next year, last January 2020, I went on a trip by myself for my 50th birthday. And while I was gone, I was at the beach and I got a piece of sand in my eye, I think, and scratched my eyeball. And I think it, I won't go into all of that, but just the exact place where the scratch was, the way that it happened, they didn't think that it was going to be able to be healed, and I was being told that I was going to probably have to have a corneal transplant. And I couldn't see out of my right eye for about 5 or 6 weeks. And I did a lot of healing work, um, and my eye healed, and my prescription changed, but I didn't have to have a corneal transplant, and it basically resolved itself. But I didn't listen to the message that I was very clearly getting to slow down. I just kept, I expect a lot of myself, and I expect a lot of my body, and I have not been very good at listening when my body tells me to slow down. So here we are in 2021, and I literally got to the point where I almost lost my life and had to take an entire month completely off of work. And that's part of why this back pain showed up. again. Um, because I was trying to do too much. I was trying to do too many things to go back fully back into work, and I'm just simply not ready energetically to fully dive back in. So I've had to delay a couple of things. I've had to take things slower, and I really am listening now. But asking yourself, what's the lesson here? What's the gift? And the gift, like, to go back to that whole scenario with myself, the gift is when I did, when I have, I did take that month off, and that was really forced. I, there's no way I could have done any type of work, but as I am allowing myself to re-enter work with a different approach and delegating more and really honoring and listening to my body, and my back was telling me that I wasn't quite doing that quite enough. But what's happened for me is just an enormous amount of downloads have been coming in for me for the healing work that I'm doing for Sacred Soul Alignment. I've just been receiving more alignments than I can keep up with. I received a whole new, huge download of something that is going to be coming down the road in a few months called Sacred Soul Symbols. I received a download of 55 sacred technology symbols, and that I've been working with. So when I did listen, just even a little bit, it's like this whole flood came in. So what I really wanted, the message that I really wanted to come across here, and I've gone down a few rabbit holes here, but I think that these are important topics, is to please do not judge yourself if you're going through a challenge. Um, just ask your higher self, your higher guidance system, what is the gift here and what is the challenge, and where is my opportunity for healing? And then do the work, and that's it. And then allow yourself to expand, and then there will probably be some other challenge that will come up. So just really allowing yourself to be in the now present moment, and allowing yourself to go through whatever it is that you're going through. And don't try to push it away, don't try to cover it up. Allow yourself to feel every human feeling that you are experiencing. Allow yourself the time and energy to process through that, because that's the gift that we're being given right now as a human collective. We are clearing so much as a human collective. It's like the bottom of the barrel stuff that we've all been working on for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. And that's the gift that we're being given now, is to really finally, get to the bottom and get these energies cleared out. So that's my message here in a very windy, roundabout way. But that's the energy that we're in right now. Everything is so unknown. The energy is so windy and up and down, and difficult to navigate. And so my message is just to honor yourself, and honor where you're at, and don't try to judge yourself for what you're going through. And if anybody else does that, if anybody else is throwing that energy at you, just say, no, thank you, I don't accept that, I'm not available for that, and just go about your time. And the more that we clear, the less we're going to be triggered by other people's judgments and opinions of us. And I have so many tools in Sacred Soul Alignment certification that have helped me be able to process through and out of something very quickly. I have an alignment that I created specifically for what I'm talking about, which is called Releasing Attachment to Others' Emotions and Expectations. And I've found myself running that frequently in these scenarios that I just shared with you. And it's invaluable to have those kind of tools at your disposal, at your fingertips at a moment's notice. So I didn't actually watch the comments because I got myself down so many rabbit holes of things that I wanted to talk about. Um, How can you explain so many losses as far as death and grief from a loved one, parent, son, sister, brother, spouse? I have asked, what's the lesson? So um, that's a difficult thing to unwind, to find the lesson in such a painful experience. And oftentimes we can't find the gift in that experience until we're pretty far out of that experience. Um, I've had a lot of loss in my life. I lost my dad when I was 17. My mom died uh, 15 years later. I was 32, but still way too young to be without parents, for my children to be without grandparents. My sister and brother were only 18 and 20 when my mom died. They were orphans, basically. So what is the gift there? That took me a long time to see that. And for me, in that experience, the gift was, I know that I would not be on the path that I'm on if my parents were here. Do I want them to be here? Do I miss them every single day? Yes. But I would not personally have had, um, I wouldn't have, my life wouldn't be the same experience, and I wouldn't be doing this work that I'm doing right now. Um, I lost my cousin who I was very close to. He died suddenly of a heart attack when he was 28. While my mom was dying, he had a heart attack. Um, he left behind two babies, and that's a difficult thing to answer. And I lost my husband. That's a whole story. There definitely were gifts within that experience. Um, but I think that that can be something that we just may not know the answer to until we have a higher perspective on that. And every soul came here with an intention for what they wanted to experience and what they have contracted before they came here. And we don't, we can see and know some things, but we can't see and know everything until we have that higher perspective. So that's a difficult question to answer, and I don't really have a full answer for that. Let's see. So I think somebody's asked for the replay. The replay will be right here as soon as I'm done. Um, and I'm just looking in those are just the comments that I'm seeing in my group. So I hope that I didn't go down too many rabbit holes and that this message was exactly what you needed. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. And I'll go back and look at those comments in the other places as well. So, and just an invitation for you, if you are someone that really wants to have tools to work on your own self, or maybe you're doing this work in the world and you want to have tools that are very fast and very easy to use with your clients, that go deep into cleaning all of this stuff up and expanding into what it is that we are wanting to desire. I invite you to join me for Sacred Soul Alignment Certification. We start next week, next Thursday. I can't wait to get started. All of the bonuses are included. In fact, the bonuses actually equal more than the investment for the class. There's the Sacred Light certification, Aligned and Abundant, and Co-Creating Wealth. Those three are bonuses everyone will get. The full price for the 12-week certification program is $16.97. And I also have a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 12-month payment plan. So if you're wondering if this is for you, or you're not sure, there's also a link above this video that you can schedule a 15-minute call with me to ask any questions. And there's a link above this video if you want to register or want more information about the certification. So if you're watching the replay, I'd love to hear your comments on all of this, your thoughts on everything that I've shared here today, and I hope it resonates with you. And so much love, everyone, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.